Hello, this is a test. We're getting ready to go. Starting live stream. Hello, everyone. I want to start welcoming you here to GovSchool. We're getting ready to go live stream here. Just a minute. I want to welcome everybody here to GovSchool this afternoon. When you come into the room, we'll ask you that you maintain your mute status. We'll be going live on YouTube, getting everything set up right now. So bear with us. We'll be right with you in just a minute. I want to welcome everybody here this afternoon to GovSchool. And this is a series that we do with GovDirections. And we are live on YouTube now. And this will be a recorded session. And so I welcome you to come back and watch a little bit later if you miss something as we go along. Those that are in the room live, you're welcome to ask me questions, but just know that you will be recorded. And I like to make sure you're aware of that for your own privacy reasons. I do ask that you maintain your mute status when you come into the room, and that will help us with background noise. It's always a good opportunity for everybody to share and try to hear equally. So it's important that we do that. And I'll be going through a couple of different features on our website today. I'm a big believer in learning and experiential learning. And so I think it's better to kind of bounce around on the internet when we are actually going out there and doing that. And so that way you can see some real live action. I use a PowerPoint. The PowerPoint slides are available in our Google Drive that we share with our members. It is a member-only feature. So make sure you have the local government plus state and federal listings in our service. I'll share that with you in just a minute to get access to that information. Our primary objective at GovDirections is to put those bids right there in front of you, make sure you can find, but also that you can win. We like to teach. We help you learn to win government contracts. We started in 1998. We've served just over 112,000 companies, but we learned early on if we can teach you about various features related to government contracting that you're going to do better. And so we bring to you some 25 years experience working and actually winning contracts too. My name is Mark Knowles. I'm one of the founders of GovDirections. And in my own personal background, I've worked on about 300 plus contracts in just over 34 states. Primarily in the field of human resource management. So I'm going to share some of those tidbits with you today as we go along. But today's focus is really going to be on disaster contracting. I would point out that our schedule is online at GovSchool. You can pop in and you can see some of the other classes. I always encourage this particular one called GovSchool Focus, where it's more of a mini boot camp of how to go about working with government contracting. And the next one's every first and third Thursday. And the next one is February 2nd. And then if you're just learning how to write RFPs, an excellent one is this Thursday at 4 o'clock. Tammy Bailey-Foltz comes with us and she brings to you a specialized class in the ABCs writing. And she just does a great job. And before that, she was also talking about research opportunities and on another channel here and other parts of registering to business with government and so on. Of course, we have our winning series. We're in week 4 of 8 weeks of training. And so if you haven't participated in one of those, that's a member-only class, you should come. We're at week 4, but we'll be starting in a new fresh series in the coming weeks. And tomorrow we'll be talking about performance research, how to go about pricing. That's a difficult subject sometimes, learning how to do that. And just because you can't make something live, don't forget we always have our library. You can always pop over to our library and see those recordings anytime you like, or on our YouTube channel where they are presented back to you instantly. So let me turn over to disaster relief contract. And I think, you saw our advertisement today, it's pound earthquakes, pound storms, pound snowstorms. We're another snowstorm warning out, pound rainstorms and all kinds of words I haven't actually ever heard more in my lifetime. I think cyclones and cyclone, I don't know, all these different things. I even saw this big old pink cloud in Mexico City. I think it was yesterday. It was just highly unusual, but we're seeing this over and over again. It's not going anywhere. And so it's important that you understand how to step in and not only be a good steward in your communities by helping out in areas that they need help and assistance, but also as a way for as a part of your business strategy to help you understand how that process works. Because behind every disaster and right after every disaster, and even before every disaster, there's disaster relief contracting. And there's a special act at the federal level that even governs that. I'd point out that many of us come, if you're actually in a hurricane zone or other places where you see FEMA and other federal agencies step in and they act very quickly sometimes, they're not always the primary driver of contracting itself. The funds always, approved by the president and then shared, with the governor's request. And so all the politics are involved with that. But the procurement itself is many times let. And that means the bids are actually issued at the local government level. So it's important that you understand from the flow of those funds so that you're able to step in and be a recipient. And then understanding really, there's really 3 periods of disasters. The first is, pre-disaster, and that is, getting ready, being prepared and preparedness and having emergency drills and understanding really what's needed when a disaster does occur. So that it actually even sometimes help prevent disasters. So there's plans that are put in place and preparedness. So that part is a significant funding measure of the federal government as well as the state governments and individual local counties and the EMAs, emergency management authorities in the areas. Just remember, there's all different forms of government as we step into contracting. It's not just one agency or another. It's a whole a group of them. And sometimes there are even regional governments where you have multiple governing authorities coming together in order to create a special area that's just involved in contracting. And so know that that's there. And then we get to the stage where it's actually happening. Okay, there's a disaster in place and the immediate impact of it, and try to have, being there to really pick up and start moving really quickly, going in and clearing roads and clearing debris and emergency repairing infrastructure like bridges and sidewalks and transportation means, as well as food and housing and assistance, and then even going into other parts of that from a local government standpoint. Sometimes even with third-party providers who were there to assist, but are funded by federal funds or funded by state and local funds. So therefore, their contracts are governed, and so you should be aware of all those. And to the end of the disaster, and that's recovery and post disaster, where you're going in, and of course, making sure that the community's back in order. And this could be, later on, putting a new roof in where it's been roof damaged, or putting in new walls, or environmental remediation, new painting, new plaster, going back in and replanting. So at just about every field, including, and on the consulting side, coming in with human behavior type situations, also coming in with general consulting in terms of accounting and making sure the accounting is done correctly, and also just management oversight. So just about every field that I can think of in some way. And I challenge you, give me a call and I will find you a disaster related contract in your field. It touches every single field. And so I use images of all different sizes here, a flood or hurricane coming in. We saw the storms hit pelting the West and just historic problems. We've seen it in the East Coast. We're seeing with snowstorms and just immediate there. But you see this type of funding necessary everywhere. In fact, this coming year is the largest amount of spending in disaster relief contracting that we've seen. And that's on top of last year. And I bet you, as I'm sitting here, next year is going to be even more. And so it's important that you recognize that. And so you have to be ready for this, because essentially the difference between regular contracting and disaster contracting is the speed at which it moves. And so in order for the you to be prepared, you gotta know how these things happen. Okay. You can't stumble and then learn because then you're gonna be too late. Okay. It's not like regular contracting where you can take a little time sometimes. The number one thing I get is, Mark, I'm getting registered. And you're going through this registration process for potentially 3 months, or I'm getting my capability statements. I'm waiting on that. You just can't wait with government contracting. These things are all good and you want to do them, but you got to respond. Whenever I got advised somebody just quickly by email today, they said they were waiting on their capability statement. Not what 20% of contracts require a capability statement. It's not like it's everybody requiring it. It does help you frame your company in the right way, and you do really need one when you're going out. And it's just something you can just hand off to someone when you are ready. But before I would do that, I'd go out there and actually start searching and finding bids that I can bid on, because there you're going to see what the government wants you to respond to. They're going to give you a list. They're not going to ask you to do things that they don't expect. So if you open it up, and I can guarantee you 1 out of 10 may have the word capability statement in it. The rest of them are not. Okay. It doesn't mean you don't need a capability statement. Before you leave for today, I'm going to say, hey, get a capability statement. You got to be able to send that by fax or however these especially emergency spending, send it as fast as you can. But don't wait. Okay. If you're thinking about disaster release contracting in the near future, go ahead and look at some of the bids we have posted today that are impacted basically from the West Coast, and potentially some of the ones that are post preparedness from down there in South Florida and up in North Carolina. I've seen a lot of those now. Okay. So understand, whenever you get into this, it's all governed by the Thomas T. Stafford Disaster Relief and Emergency Assistance Act. Okay. This was signed into law in 1988. It was amended from a previous Disaster Relief Act in 1974. And the big thing to walk away from it is that FEMA requires local governments. It's actually requiring FEMA to contract with businesses located in the affected area when feasible and practical. So, I mean, you can look at all the rules, all the regulations, but the gist is they're trying to recover quickly, and they're looking locally to do that. Okay. And so they want to emphasize that part of it. Now, as you might imagine, whenever you first come into a disaster area, the first people, the businesses are affected, the ones that are there and local. So they're not always able to respond quickly. So just understand it. So they're looking for those, and when they use the term local and located in the affected area, that means that's really a broad area. That it means that you're on the ground is what it basically means, and that you're able to respond and you're able to get back and do the type of work that they need to. So if there's a South Florida situation and you're a tree remover in Tennessee, you can move to that. You can move and be welcome in that area in order to procure. This is not something that's unusual. Same vice versa. And we see this mass movement whenever it's helpful. In addition, you can also support local through subcontracting. There's a local company who is registered there. But most importantly, too, is that you must be registered in the appropriate federal databases to be eligible contract awards. Okay. Before you can win a federal government contract, period, or touch a federal dollar, you have to be registered in SAM, System for Award Management. And, this isn't anything that's complicated. Okay. Essentially, the System for Award Management is the accounts payable system for the federal government. It's 1,200, 1,500 of you every day coming into business, wanting to learn how to do business with the government, and you approach the federal government. So this is the system that organizes that. And so what the federal agencies say up front is that you can't win a federal government contract unless we have the ability to pay you. Okay. So we want you to go ahead and get that set up. First of all, make sure that you got your bank account set up, that you got your corporate entity set up the correct way, and all the details that are associated with that. They're going to do some background there for you. Not complicated things that you had to do when you were incorporated. You got to have information about your beneficial ownership, things like this. They want to know what kind of business that you're doing. They don't want to see, you doing hairdressing plus also grounds work. You want to have clarity of purpose. Okay. And you want to be accurate. Okay. And they want to understand what you're able to accomplish. Okay. So that's the purpose, really, of SAM, getting organized there. Okay. So if you don't know how to do that, give us a call. We have people who can help register that. But the fact of the matter is, it's not complicated. I hear one of the number one things I hear from members is that I'm calling because I just have been working with someone for the last 6 months and they still can't get me registered in SAM. Still haven't got my cage code. and it's just bogged down. There's just no reason for that. Okay. You should be able to go in an afternoon and maybe the next day, and get a registration with the SAM. Okay. The things that sort of trip people up are small things like your addressing, just small things. And just remember, you don't have to have a lot of other things. The other thing I always get, this really frustrates me, is that once they get registered, that somebody's helping them register, then they're told that they have to have all these other things. It's just not the case. Okay, the federal government will tell you in every single contract what you need, and they'll go ahead and get you your pre-authorization. But if you got somebody else monitoring your account or holding your emails, you're not getting something directly from them. So the only thing you need when you register with SAM and you're registered with the federal disaster contracting, you need to watch out for just a .gov address. Okay, and everything should be coming directly to you and not through an intermediary, because you're going to find out how simple it is. But I routinely see people, they're out $6,000, $7,000, $8,000 before they realize that they haven't done anything that I couldn't have done for 20 minutes of my own online. Okay, so I want you to be aware of that. The other thing is within SAM, as you're registering, there's going to be a part, just one segment, that talks about disaster contracting, and it's not more than essentially a check mark. I can do this. Okay, you need to check it. You need to make sure you got your NAICS codes in there. NAICS codes are the North American Industry Classification System. Okay, if you got some PSC codes, they're going to ask you for some of it later on, and they're going to ask you some information about your cage codes, which they're going to assign to you. Okay, so these are the things you're going to learn. But the first thing is just checking off the box that you're able to do disaster contracting. Not complicated at all, but you want to make sure if you're not sure right now that that's been done, don't pay anybody extra to get it done. Just log into SAM. Here we go. Wait, I said I was going to do some experiential learning here. Let me pop over to the web. Okay, here we go. We go to sam.gov. It's that simple. Type in sam.gov. Anytime you're dealing with anyone that's dealing with the internet, first of all, they're going to mark it. It's 100% free. You don't have to pay anybody. Okay, over and over again, tell you that. It always look for that .gov address. It's a marker. Okay, you won't be able to come right here and sign in. Somebody else has your username and password. It's not appropriate, and in fact, they'll tell you that whenever you click on sign in. Let me see that. Yep, it says right here, using another person's email and address is strictly prohibited. Okay, you just log in right here, you accept it, and what happens at that point is they're going to ask you for your username and password. If you don't have your email, they'll email it to you. They'll ask you a way to update that. If somebody else is helping you and they've got that information, you need to get it from them. Okay, and you should have direct access. But when you log in, it's going to be really one of the first steps along the way. It spoke to about here under the entity information section. Okay, this is where you basically pull the information for your disaster response registry. So before anything else, even today, if you don't know if you got this, go ahead and register. Go just log in at SAM, register. Need some help with that? Book some time on the calendar, and I'll be glad to help you with that. It's that simple. But you need to be the one doing it. We can walk you through on a Zoom session. It's not anything complicated. Okay, double check, make sure you have that. We still got people coming into the room. Let me just let everybody in here. We certainly appreciate a good crowd here. We got all over YouTube Live too, so that's really good. And so, moving back and forth. And the other thing is, I want to mention this. When you're in SAM, this is where you're going to talk about your capabilities too. And this is part of your entity information. This is not necessarily your capability statement, but it's the same type of information. So the good thing about a capability statement is it helps you kind of pull things together. We work with Dr. Cynthia Harper. She does an excellent job in helping you frame that. She has an intake form to really help you. Same information you would put on your registration. And we can lay that out. And I'll be glad to show you I'll show you some capability statements in just a minute. But you should have that ready to go. That's the kind of information they want for capability statement. But as soon as you put that in there, someone's going to call and say, hey, you left this off, you left that off. Just know the government's not going to call you. Don't worry about it. You're good. If they check on there that says it's okay, you're good. Okay. Bells and whistles, it's fine. You need them. It's always good to have a website, for example. It's always good to have the capability statement. It's always good to have other parts of the registration and so forth. But the most important part is that you checked off the disaster response and that you went through that setting there. Okay. And just know that if you're a potential contract, you have to be there. Okay. And so I showed you SAM, and then the disaster response information section is here, and acquisition.gov is FAR. Okay. FAR is it's the rule book. That's not kind of, it is the rule book. of government contracting. Your contracting officer with the federal government or any funds that touch the federal agencies will follow these rules. Okay, so it's important that you become familiar, at least with the site. It's written in plain English, accuracy, brevity, clarity, ABCs. They're going to tell you what sections. You can also do indexing, and you can do keyword search. For example, I could just go in, just search disaster. Let's see here if I can get to the right spot. Disaster. Okay. And it's going to show me the sections that I need to be worried about. Okay. 26.205. If I knew it was 26.205 coming in, and most likely I will because it's going to tell me that, I would just pop over here, 26 part 205. It's going to tell me what I need to do. Okay. How to register. And this is going to govern your behavior with them. Okay. And so you can go and learn. So you got to get used and be familiar with disaster. And they're going to have a form, basically, that this is type form that you're going to have to need to fill out. It's going to give you details about your contact information. This is just a check off one pager, and FEMA has it on their site, and just an industry liaison program site. But more importantly, also with the state and local government levels, you're going to find this type of information requested. Okay, so this is where your capability statement really comes in handy. They will have forms that allow you. Some of them will have some basic fill out, one page, just trying to get some basic demographics. You're going to be required to post that to them. And then essentially what they're able to do is just go down that list and call on you if they need your services. Okay, but you're also going to need to go with and proactively market. And that's where the capability statement behind that or attached to it is a great way to do it. I always tell too, if they will have sessions like this session here when they're doing disaster contracting, come ready. Have your name and your company name on your profile. Okay, you can change that. You don't know how to do that. So I'll just kind of take the little test here. Basically you go to your more, and you hit rename and you type your name and then you type gov directions or your company name. And that just helps you out. Okay, be ready to go. Drop in your capability statement in the chat box if it's on a live meeting. Okay, let them know who you are. Start marketing yourself. It's always important. State and local governments control a large portion of disaster response activities. The governor calls for the disaster. The federal approves it, the president approves it, FEMA is able to step in. The state emergency management agency coordinates, the local organizations respond. And so it's a multi-level, all government approach. Okay. So in order to do that, I can guarantee you that the state of Georgia is where we're at. They're not going to pick up and start looking in a federal database for folks. Okay. So because the law itself says they really want everyone to be local to some extent. Okay. So they're going to really be looking at the contracting databases that they've put together. Okay. And so while you're going to have to say I'm registered in SAM and I'm disaster response registry, you're also going to have to get on their list as well. And so you're going to want to watch those. I'm going to show you some of those in just a minute. So you must be registered in appropriate state and local databases to be eligible as well. The state's emergency management offices will be actively engaged with first responders. Okay. So they're on the ground and they're the ones responding. And so when you're looking at that, you want to look at the individual. I'm going to start with California because that's where we're seeing a lot of action right now in terms of needs that are in place. And so you can always go to the web, and I've got here, let's just, another way to do it is instead of me using the links here, I'm going to go here and I'm just going to type in my state's name or the state that I'm concerned about, emergency, if I could spell, management. Okay. And that's going to come up with the most quick place that I need to go. Okay. Always look for the .gov address. Okay. And so when you're there, let me just make sure, I want to make sure my share is correct. Okay, it is. Okay. Always like to stop just to check. Okay. And when you hear, you're going to see almost all of these are all broken down the exact same way. It's going to be ready. This is preparedness. If you're not really in the assistance, if you're in the assistance and you're not actually contracting, okay, and disaster response. And so you're going to see those, okay, current incidents and also be ready. And then you're going to see almost always there's going to be some basic information, apply, get funding, how to go in, and they're going to have some news sections to help you with that. Okay. And initially their response is almost always to those who need, okay, as opposed to the contracting side. Okay, but you'll always be able to find those details. And I'm going to show you some of those in just a second, but you'll see the same Nevada, Oregon, every state's going to have different ones. And then you're going to see the agencies that are really charged, contracting sites, Army Corps of Engineer, Red Cross, Small Business Administration, the Office of Disaster Assistance, technically there to help you in funding in a lot of ways, Defense Logistics Agency, SAM, the DHS Advanced Acquisition Planning System, and then potential opportunities with DHS prime contractors. So they'll go ahead and they'll set up prime contractors in place who have experience in this, and then they become the individuals on the ground. Because we have a strong philosophy of public-private partnerships in the United States. So don't sell those short. And you need to, if you learn who the prime contractor is in the area that you hope to serve in the future, and then start trying to build relationships with them. Best way, once again, is with your capability statement. And I'll have a kind of an example of one here. This one we have. You want something specifically with yours, but in every one of those, you're going to want executive summary, your differentiators, your past performance, your core competencies, your certifications, and your codes that you're able to serve. Okay, and then contact information, making sure that it's relevant. Okay. We have a whole section just on capability statements at our website that can help you with those. So I encourage you to go in there and check them out. Okay. But I'm going to go first now and just showing you some actual disaster contracts and how to go about really finding them. Okay. Give me 1 second here. I've had so many windows open today. We have so many people checking in or asking questions. Because this one popped up today, and the other founder said, well, I didn't need to use this one, kind of help show the type of contracts that exist out here. Because this is what's happening in Monterey right now. So this is, essentially different stages that we're looking at disaster. One is actually not just the disaster debris removal, disaster recovery, but also the management of that. Okay, and understanding that there's different facets of supervision. So they'll award a contract, come in and make an immediate recovery type of remediation, and then they'll also award a contract on top of it for someone to check to make sure that it's occurred, and that's a funding mechanism. And so when you see a contract, almost always have the words disaster, and I always use that as a keyword search within GovDirections or within RFP delivery. I'll show you both tools in just a second. But each of them will drive you to the individual location of the bid, okay? And so always pay attention to the RFP number, the due date. Most of these are going to have quick turnarounds whenever there's a disaster, okay? So you know that going into that. I have there's an old adage, work expands to fill the time available for its completion. If you got 3 days, you need to be able to respond in 3 days. If you got 3 weeks, take a little bit of time. Don't respond until you actually, because there's going to be some addendums potentially like we see here. Okay. And whenever you open up one of these, the way you read them, almost always in this particular situation, it's not necessarily, you're going to have different contracting instruments. And I do a class on those types of instruments. That's part of the one that I talked about at GovSchool Focus, but there's actually a specific class on how to read an RFP. But other types are the request for quotes. This means they want somebody, they don't want a big formal proposal. They want you to be able to respond to them quickly, give them an answer, and they're going to tell you how to do it. Okay. The other is more open-ended, requests for information. That's the one you most oftentimes see with our source of salt. You almost always see that with a disaster type situation. And they basically say, okay, here's our disaster. We need this particular areas, maybe debris removal, emergency cleaning, and they'll give a whole list of things. And they're going to say, tell us about your company and respond. Give us some information about you. And then we're going to buy off that list, or we're going to pre-approve you for the local community to buy off our list. Okay. And so we be ready to respond to those. Those are going to be one page. A lot of times I've seen lately, they're just Google forms. You go in there, you fill it out, and you attach your capability statement and send it along your way. And if you leave nothing today, you leave from this session, know that you need a capability statement. Don't wait on it, but get on the gear on that if you're going to be involved in disaster contracting. Whenever you look at these, I'm going to give you some times. Always note the times. Governments do not move to your persuasion. You got to do exactly what they want you to do. The first thing to remember when working with government contracting is never be creative. Never. I'll say it again. Never be creative. Okay. Give them exactly what they're asking for. Don't give them more. Okay. The good thing about a request for information is it's more open-ended because you can really impress them with some things. Okay. But in a request for quote, though, they're telling you exactly what they want. They want your quote. Get it there by 3 o'clock. Don't get it there by 4 o'clock. Note the times and details that you would look for. Okay. And they're always going to be laid out the same way. You can attend the class on how to read an RFP, but you'll see the same information in every one of them. So once you read one, pay attention to it. Go ahead and do some research. Look for what they're looking for, because over and over again, you're going to be seeing the same thing. Whenever I see one, the first thing I do is I look at the scope of work. That's almost always it should speak to you right away. It literally needs a song that you like to hear, and you just dive right into that. If it is, then if it speaks to you, then you should go about pursuing it. Read through everything, make sure you got everything in order. If it doesn't, walk away from it. There's plenty of other opportunities. Okay. And so what they're looking for is grant management assistance in this particular situation. Okay. So it's there. Oh, the other thing I always like to point out, and I can pretty much guarantee it's right here. Let me go pull that out. Is the best thing about government contracting is they always tell you, it's always like school. They tell you how to get an A. Okay. They tell you how to win. Let's see here. Selection criteria, page 10. Pay attention to that. For goodness sakes, they're telling you how they're going to make the decision. Believe them. That's how they're going to make the decision. Always look at it here, and you're going to see the rubric. I teach graduate school in a class at a major university, and the first thing they always want to know is how am I going to get the A? I'm like, let's step back. We're here to learn as opposed to the magic scoring on rubrics. But so that everybody wants that. If you look at here, 15% is pricing, 85% is something else. Okay. If you look at the basic, it's that you know what you're talking about. Okay. So that's why your capability statement is so important. Frame yourself well. Show your experience. Show your qualifications. Give your references. Make sure they're up to date. References are more important than the price. So I mean, the number one thing, I always I hear two things whenever I'm working with new companies. So one of them is that has the decision already been made? Am I just looking at something they're ready to hire somebody? The answer to that is no. The first answer. If they've got a competitive proposal out, they're looking for competition. And the second is, aren't they always just going for the cheapest? Rarely going for cheapest. The thing that they really want to do is they want to make sure the person who makes the decision that they don't get embarrassed. They don't want to hire you and you can't do the work. Okay. That's the number one thing. Okay. They want to pass you along and then they want to look good. That's the human nature of everybody. Okay. So they're not going to choose you just because you're lowballing the price and then you can't do the work. Okay. So just remember that going into it. You should be able to, they want you to be there to make assistance in the areas needed. And for you to be rewarded for that in a professional business way, not to be ever rewarded, but to be rewarded the right way. So RFP delivery, the good thing about RFP delivery and our newest service is a geo mapping tool. And so you can come in and let me just go ahead and make sure I got my demo account logged in so that we can see this. You come in and you always want to make sure you're logged in. It's a free registration. If you're not, maybe you're at GovDirections right now. We can crosswalk you over to the site as well. GovDirections is our straightforward, been in place, we're serving our members. He's at that same website since 2006. It works really well, very simple. Here we got some more bells and whistles, keeping all those happy customers, as we see here. But you come in and do some really quick, focus in on keywords related to your company, disaster, and maybe I want to look at something else like and management or conjunction. This is a typical Boolean search. You can do that. Start broad when you first come. Search, see what's out there. It's 46,000 listings today. 5,000 new ones come in. 5,000 are popping out. So here's one for mill services in emergency disaster. Disaster recovery replacement of equipment out there in California. I guarantee this is in New Jersey, but that's probably a military. It could be throughout. Okay. And you can just drive into these. All of these bids will have the word disaster in there somewhere. Okay. Then you can even map it. Going in to our map view, and then the map view is going to allow you to drill into your neighborhood. Okay. So if you really are interested in maybe, I'm gonna focus in on California right now, the California area, then you can go in there and look specifically at that area. You can use your handy tools to allow you to do that with your mouse. So here's the storms right now. This is for data center to cloud disaster recovery. They had problems with data. Okay. We have another one for medical durable cleaning and janitorial service in the disaster area. Total small business set aside. Okay. And all across, in area places, we have listings related to disaster. And so we can drill into those in a map format or there. And know that also not just the keyword though. And you could go in your particular area, you can watch for them by going in. We have, for example, debris removal contract. If you focus in on debris removal, a lot of this right now is in remediation. So I could go in and do some quick searches. I can search by industry, and then I could potentially go in and do, even if I'm doing set-asides, know that set-asides are only available at the federal level, not really at the state and local. There are some exceptions, but mostly at the federal level. And so when you're looking at those, understand that. So they're most likely, you could miss some if you're focusing just on set-asides. They're moving too quickly for those. Okay, and so you have those available. And now we also have on our section, also like West Coast disaster. And so we've got some quick links to some of the listings that have been bookmarked for that and keyword marked. Okay. And the same approach at GovDirections. Okay. When you go in, we do up front, we have a quick one for disaster relief. This is primarily for cleanup related. Those are the immediate responses. We also have even still some for COVID-19, and then infrastructure replacement type listings. And you can see they're in just about every category of listings. So there's some all the way in Rhode Island, and then you can go in and you can always do keyword searches like hurricane, storm, and so forth, and just easy, quick keyword searches. So we have some 35 active hurricane related bids. Here's one in North Carolina right now. You pop in through that, and then you're able to go into your account and you can see more details related to you, all with the ability to get you to that listing, not in a very quick way, just Dare County, looking for some assistance for this RFP. Due here soon, pop it in at the RFP very quickly. And this is a download, sorry about that. So this is not going to be one I'm going to show, but the details are there and available for you to respond. And you would want to respond directly to them. So if you've got a question about this particular listing, you want to post that question to Dare County. We're here. They want to work directly with you, not a third party. Sometimes they have third party systems that are, set up to kind of, I call them being bidwinked or hoodwinked, but they're hosted public data, make you think you got to go through them, but you don't. If you ever face those, choose the free option, move through it. Don't lose your money. You work hard for your money. Here at this point, you're working directly with the government. You want to ask the question directly of them, and the contact data is there for you. Okay. And so there we are. I'll encourage you, if you don't have your account settings set up, you can go to your member home account in both sections, and you can choose your account settings and make sure you have the type of bids that you want to have posting coming to you. Your industry preferences here, and the same thing with RFP delivery. Always click the icon to get back to your home member dashboard or any human figure, and it will help you do that. You can go in and choose those settings. Focus in on the industry first that you're looking for. We're introducing a new keyword functionality here this week, specifically for disasters, is what prompted that. But you go in there, emergency preparedness, disaster recovery, choose that one, for example, save it, and then tomorrow morning your bid alert's going to post you the new ones. Okay. And the good news is you can come online right now and actually do that search and see that what the results are. If you have location preferences, use those. I encourage you to cast a wide net with GovDirections in our services. You should do that till you learn, and then you step back. Okay, don't get overwhelmed, but do that until you really learn them, and then you're going to have a better success rate. And so when your member dashboard here, you're always going to go in and have your daily alert here, stored here. Okay. As I'm working areas, I decide I want to keep one of these. I'm going to take a look at it and then I'm going to save it. So I don't lose it. Okay. Pay attention to our GovSchool classes. Gov advice. You need somebody to help you with writing. We have people who can help you with setting up your template now, your RFP template. A little bit of an investment for that, but it saves you tons and tons of time. Okay. You don't have to do that yourself. Have an expert sit there and with you, then do that. Okay. Once you actually capture your listings that you're watching, because you're going to see a lot of them. Okay. You have your capture folder. You can always drill into that and just see the ones you're working or share that with someone. We have all kind of different social mechanisms to share your information, email, features like that, and you're able to do that. Okay. And you're captured. You can click there and you can view those, or you can go to when you first log in, always remember that they're here and you can maintain them here as long as you like. Okay. And that's a helpful tool because sometimes disaster, not so much, but other types of bids come out routinely. You can remove it when you decide you don't want to, or you can watch it, see wins, details like that. Very helpful. Your accounts, if you are at our free level, you're getting access to all federal. That's good, but state and local, really 20-1 contract. For every federal contract you're going to go after, there's 20 state and local government contracts. That's the disparity of that. Even though they're funded by the federal level, they're often procured at the state and local government level. So just tools here to allow you to do that. So I'm going to stop here. I am going to exit YouTube Live. Okay. And I'm just going to see if there's anyone here that like to has any questions. But I want to thank everyone on YouTube for joining us today. But I'm not able to answer questions on YouTube. So I do encourage you to call us at 800-492-8523. I always like to show that. This is our number. We provide direct assistance in trying to track these listings. We encourage you to do that. Oh, and not to mention our pricing structure, very, very straightforward. $25 a month for all local, state, and federal, $50 for region, $100 for the entire country. And that includes our business intelligence product. So thanks a lot on YouTube Live, and I'll wait to see if anybody here has any questions before